HIPAA is interesting. And actually, if you go back to it, the criminal penalties were actually just introduced in 2009, effective, I think, February 2010. You know, one of the problems, and I'm going to say something that's somewhat blasphemous for a technologist, is technology has never ever solved anything. I mean, what technology does is it can enable a solution, it can facilitate a solution, it can accelerate a solution, but there has to be social decisions first, and then the appropriate economic framework tied to that social decision before anything really happens. And I think one of the problems we've seen both in HIPAA and in some of the privacy laws, the economics haven't really been there to justify the return on investment necessary to fully implement everything that's required. And unfortunately, I think our government went a little too far with the criminal penalties, simply because now you run the risk of the person who is hacked can serve more jail time than the hacker, which is not a level economic playing field by any stretch of the imagination. So the solution is making the right social decisions and then getting the economic framework right, as opposed to trying to apply technology to the issue.
Well, thank you very much. Gentleman here.
Thank you, sir. I'm Pavan Dugal. I'm the president of and chairman of Cyber Law Asia, and a practicing attorney in the Indian Supreme Court, focusing on cybersecurity and cyber law related issues. 2 comments. Number 1, since the morning we've been hearing about cybersecurity and the Council of Europe Convention on Cybercrime. I wanted to put forward a suggestion that cybercrime is not equivalent to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a far bigger umbrella, under which a part or some umbrella is the cybercrime. And the existing International Convention on Cybercrime of the Council of Europe is one of the starting points, but not necessarily the way going forward. The second thing, I wanted to get the comments of the entire panel. Since 1990, when the canvas began, it was a blank canvas. The last 2 decades, we've seen 2 kinds of spots, 2 color spots emerging. There's the red spots, which have been sporadically emerging. These are primarily cyber war incidents that are, though isolated, but emerging nonetheless. And number 2, we see blue spots. Now, these are thanks to the ruthlessness of cyber terrorism. Today, nations are in a state of complete denial. Given the present situation of complete denial status amongst nations, how does the panel say, can we break through the ice and come across with the nations to agree on common principles impacting or protecting or regulating cybersecurity?
Thank you very much.
Well, I think that the Council of Europe Convention on Cybercrime, as I said, was a good starting point, but I think it's stagnant, and we just have to realize that. And so there are these other vehicles that I believe will help drive consensus. And that is the main point. When you have major divisions on something like that, it's just not going to push things forward. It takes too long to do the process. So I appreciate your point, but I think that we just have to keep trying to drive forward those common principles and have developed nations and developing countries have a harmonized approach.
Jim?
Yeah. I keep coming back to the idea of the commons, and we've solved this problem in the past. We've got the Law of the Sea Treaty, we've got the agreement for the use of outer space, the moon, and celestial bodies. We've been able to address the problem and come together and do that in such a way that we've all maintained our national perspectives, ethics, mores, socials, both as nations and as individuals. So we can do it. The question is, how do we get to that first level of consensus? Everybody recognizes the cybercrime is wrong, but each culture has its own definition of crime. But somewhere there is a fundamental element of crime that we all agree. Be it fraud, be it theft, be it whatever. And I think the starting point is getting a first set of agreements that basically say this is wrong, and we'll all work together to deal with that, and then work our way up. Because we all have different ideas of what liberty is. We all have different ideas of freedom of expression. We all have, but at a fundamental level, there are some things we can agree to. And in the past, we've been able to do it. The fact the United Nations exists is case in point. So the key is not trying to boil the ocean. The key is, what are those few things we really agree are wrong? What are those few things we all agree soils the common for all of us? And then let's start with those.
Well, thank you. The lady there, she was asking for a question, I think. No? No? I'm sorry. Here, please.
My name is Gil Duval. I'm with the National Defense University in Washington. Given the fact that politics and codes of conduct lag technology, should there be an effort to try to limit implementation of certain technologies until the code of conducts can be developed? Thank you.
Why don't you start?
I think that there should definitely be more activity by nation states that that have in the interest of promoting democracy. So when I look at the export control laws, having used to be an export control lawyer, I've often wondered why we didn't weigh in more with countries that want filtering technology. And so I think that is a role where countries could say certain kinds of technology should not be deployed because it works against democratic principles and it works against international law for freedom of expression and those other laws, other rights guaranteed under international law.
No?
I think nowadays technology has made the policy, the policy relating to internet more complicated. Anyway, I think experts and scholars can sit down together to enhance mutual understanding and try to get to know each other's concerns and seek common grounds to solve the issues like legal problem and so on.
So I'm reminded of a story about the development of the West here in the U.S. when the bank robbers had access to automobiles and the law enforcement were still on horses. There was a movement to certainly ban the ownership of automobiles as a solution to curtailing, bank robbers. And I think that the model of curtailing the advancement of technology, again, I don't think it solved any problem. I'm not in love with technology as I've served as chief technology officer for many years. I think to the extent that technology can be applied to enhance the quality of life and the success of businesses that choose to use it, then it should be deployed. And what we need to do is look at the governance frameworks and bring them into the second decade of the 21st century, whereby they move on faster cycle times. There are frameworks for agreements that work on faster cycle times, and to look at ways to use those technologies for collaboration. If I think about the World Economic Forum, where Klaus Schwab, the founder of the forum, has established what we call the Welcome Platform. The Welcome Platform, the World Electronic Online Community, is a platform whereby industry and global leaders as well as NGOs can be convened in network time to look at and address critical issues that come up in real time. And so how do we use these technologies to actually change the governance frameworks and enable collaboration on this borderless frontier of the web in different ways, as opposed to curtailing the use of those technologies for the betterment of our societies?
Well, thank you, Matt. I think we don't have much time, so I'm going to take two questions, one here and one there, please. And then ask the panel to come up with their final remarks. Please.
Anton.